Hey, where is the scene? So in this video, we're going to take a look at my workflow of creating an architectural visualization using Maya and Twinmotion. So in this first section, we'll go through the process of doing the modeling. We'll take a look at the file that we got from the client, which was the design. And then we'll go through on creating the model in Maya and getting it ready to send to Twinmotion for the final render. So let me take a look at the actual design itself. All right, so it's a pretty simple design. It's a two-story building. This is the layout that they sent with the roof design. And you can see the elevations here as well. We have all four elevations that we could come back in and pull any information that we need off of it. So this was done with standard AutoCAD, which is the regular line drawing. Now, what I like to do, which I find is a faster process for me, is I would take this line drawing and then I would actually come into AutoCAD architecture and I would just draw out the outline of the building with the 3D walls and then put on the roof and place in the doors and the windows to get the actual size of everything already in 3D. So you could see here, this is the 3D model of the house. Just really fast, really simple, right? And then this is what I would export and then import back into Maya itself. So this is the file. Let us jump into Maya and we could start creating a model. All right, so the first thing I'll just run through really quick is how my Maya is set up. Created a new scene. I didn't do anything yet other than save the file under the name for the client. You can see to the top I have a lot of custom tools. So instead of going up to the menu and looking for tools, I have all my tools built in right here, which are the most common tools that I use. All right. As I go through them, I would let you know what it is I actually selecting. So the first thing that I would do is I would go up to the preferences, and in the preferences menu I go to settings and I change it to feet and inches, since we design in feet and inches. Right, so the next thing I could go and import the model itself. So I would just find the file and import the model. So I saved it as a FBX. Now when we bring in a file from AutoCAD, what I do is I pass it through 3D Studio Max first, because I haven't found a good way to go directly from AutoCAD into Maya. So I import it into 3D Studio Max, and then from there I would export it as a FBX. Right, so we in Maya now. We brought in the model. You can see we have some flickering, and this is just because of the settings. So what I would do is I will pull up the camera settings, and under the near clipping plane, now you will not see the menu because I have everything on a second screen, but I would still let you know what I'm doing. So under near clipping plane, I just set it to 0.1, and you can see that that clears up that. And then the far clipping plane, just in case I zoom out, so I would set that to 1000. That is 1000 feet, right? So you can see we good there. So the next thing I would want to do is, if you notice, we have green lines on the main building, and then we have a brown on the roof, and this sort of purplish on the windows, and that's because everything was assigned a layer in AutoCAD. I want to create one master reference layer. So what I would do is I would just select everything, and firstly I would group it. Right, once I group it, I would get rid of the unwanted files. Hopefully Maya doesn't crash. because this tends to happen a bit sometimes when you do these sort of things. Maya would just randomly crash. But the process would be create a group, and then we delete all the extra nodes that not needed, and then from there we could create a layer that we would set as a reference, so we can't actually touch while creating the model. So let's just wait and see if we get the group created or if we're going to have to restart Maya. This does take a while. I think Maya have a lot of bugs ever since the earlier releases. There was always these bugs where Maya would crash. Sometimes the gizmo would randomly disappear, and you need to go back in and kind of reset the entire workspace for Maya itself. I have no idea why, but you know, it's just because of how convenient it is for me to work with. That is why I keep using Maya. But yeah, so we're still waiting. We're still waiting a little bit. Let us see if we could get this thing to create a group without crashing. Now, quick note is not that my system is slow. I have the Lenovo Legion 7i, so it's extremely quick. It's just that certain operations, for some reason, in Maya specifically, this does happen. So let's see what's going on. And there we go. We crashed. I don't know what is the cause of that. So let us load back up and see if we could get this thing done. What I would do is I would skip ahead. If we do have a crash, I would skip ahead on that section, or I might just delete it in the edit it out of the actual replay. So we come back in, we set the feet and inches, and we import the file. Let's see if we could do this without a bug. I think this is really the main issue with the crashing. All right. So we get that done. I save it, and I would adjust the clipping planes one time. So 1 and 1000. Right. So what I would do is, let me select this. I would group this. All right. So you see that was grouped, and I would create a new layer, and we will call it ref_layer. Save that. And now what I would do is, I don't really need this line drawing here, so I would delete all other nodes that we have. So this cleans up the outliner quite a bit. Right, so the next thing is that you wouldn't see the other layers. As you could see, the colors are changing, and that is because as I delete the layer that specific part of the model is on, it removes the color and then goes back to the reference layer, which is black. Well, no layer color is black. So all right, so just deleting all the layers. Right, so we back down to just the basic reference model. I would call it. Right, so we have the model here just as a reference. One of the things that we need to do is we need to delete the history and then freeze the transforms and then center the pivot. So by freezing the transforms, if I move this off to the back just in order to create the model, I could simply go back and set the location to 0, and it would snap back to, you know, the original point. So with that being done, I will move this off, and then I would select set the model itself as a reference. So now I can't actually select anything while I'm working on it. Right. So we could start creating the actual model now. So the first thing I would do is, we have many ways to create the actual body of the walls of the building. We could create a box. I like to create polygon faces, so I will just create the face like this. Now, let me explain why I'm remodeling. If you notice how the topology goes, it is a bit messy, is because it's triangulated. Now, I am not a fan of this, so I never leave it like this. So I will always remodel it. All right, just now 1 second. Right. Yeah, so I don't leave it as triangles. What I would do is actually recreate the entire thing. So I just looking at something on my other screen. Yeah. Right, so I would recreate everything. So I would start by creating a polygon, which is this tool here, right here, right? And then what I would do is select the edges and just extrude them around the building. Press G to repeat the last command. And this is a quick process. Right. So as I have it around the entire building, if I press 3 and I hide the main mesh, you will notice that it smooths out for the most part everything except this point. And this is because these vertices here aren't joined together, right? So what we could do is just select everything and then we merge the vertex, and now it combines it into you know, one closed mesh. So let us turn this back on now. Now the next step from here is to go in and cut out the faces for the doors and the windows, which is another easy process. We select the edge loop and then we just start creating edge loops. Just roughly placing them in, we can come back and get the accurate position after. So I would do the windows first, and then the larger windows, I should say, and then I would go in and I will do the doors, since the doors are at a different height, and I would need to create another edge loop. And I don't want to create, like, let's say if I have this door, I don't want to create a loop here and now you see the loop goes all the way around the building. That is unnecessary geometry. So what I would do is, first let's start with the main windows. So we set the base and the top of the window to the correct height, and now we just go in and by holding V, we could select the entire edge loop, hold V, and then snap it to place. So we will do that for the entire thing. Then this one. Right. I will get back to this big window soon. Right. So as this is done, now what I would do is I would delete the faces that make up these large windows. And do that. All right. So now what I could do is, if I come in to create a loop for this door here, let's create an edge loop. You can see the edge loop just runs from this point to this point. It doesn't run all the way around the building and make unnecessary geometry. I mean, you could do it, but I don't. All right. Same thing goes for here. We run the edge loop and then we snap the line into place and we could delete door and the windows. And then now for this window, there is a lower section, so we could do that. And we delete this. And then what we could do now is create the two loops for this bathroom window. And then we delete that. And then finally we create the loop for the top of the door right here. Right? And then we could delete these. So if I hide the model to the back, you can see this is the wall itself, the outer section of the wall. Now we could clean up a bit. This loop here isn't needed, so I could select, double click to select the entire loop, and then this is delete edge and vertex. All of these tools, you could find them up here. So you could find like the extrude tool and delete edge and vertex, and all these tools that I use would be up at the top. Right, so after that one, I think that is the only one that we really need to clean up a bit. So the next step would be to create the thickness of the wall. So if we select the entire wall and then we extrude, and for the thickness we go minus 12.7. Now this depends on the thickness of the wall. I just know from experience that 12.7 would give you a 5-inch wall, so that is why I use 12.7. right? Now you could see that the wall is black, and that is because the normals are on the inside of the mesh. So we need to flip the normals. So this is reverse normals, and now we back to normal. No pun intended. So yeah, this is it for the outer walls for the building itself. Now, because of the scope of the project, we don't need to do the inside, so I will not be modeling the inside of the building. And when we go to render, you would either get the reflection of the window or you would have curtains on the inside. Oh, hey, how you going, man? MG. Yeah, the YouTube algorithm kind of strange. I find at a point in time it wasn't like helping like 3D artists at all, where it wasn't getting much stuff. Yeah. So I'm just going through this model for this house for a rendering project. So yeah, so that is the external walls for the ground floor. What I would do is I will hit 4 and delete the faces at the bottom here, and then I will just create the foundation. So if you look at the drawing, the foundation is a foot, right? 12 inches. So we just creating the 12 inches for the main part of the building, and then we have this step up right here, which is 6 inches. So what we could do really quick, we create a box, just box modeling really quick. So this is 1 foot, and I will just snap it right there, and I will snap it to this point. Right now we need to extrude these two sections to make either side of for the living room and the staircase. So I will create an edge loop, just randomly put it in there, and then we'll line it up after. Select the loop and snap it to this point, and then select this loop, double click to select the entire loop and snap it to that point. So now we could select these two faces and extrude all the way to the front there. Actually miss. So what you do, like mostly game related content, or like modeling for game design and stuff, or what type of work you normally do with Maya? Yeah, it is feel kind of strange when you don't actually work and use your software for a while. Right, so as we have this basic thing for the foundation, what we need to do is I will turn back on the reference, and you can see we have the step that needs to come right there. So I will just create another box and snap it to this point. It automatically goes to 6 inches. Let me just bring it out here, and I could snap this face to this point. And so it's done. I could select everything and just delete the rest of faces. So now we have this basically. All right. I could also use this section and create these steps to the side. Just rotate it, bring it out to the level, and then select the edges, the vertex, snap them in, and then these two edges we will extrude them down just to cap it off, and then we will merge the vertices. Delete the history. Okay, cool. Yeah, that is really cool. Modeling for gaming. I wanted to do that, and I kind of just fall into architecture by accident actually. So that's kind of how we here. I'll just duplicate this one and then take it to the back. And now we have that. All right. So this would be the exterior walls for the ground floor. I would deselect these. So now we could start with the upstairs now. I'll show you another way that we could do this. Instead of creating polygon faces, we could simply start with a box, snap it there, and we move the faces to where we need them to be. So them out, and we come back. Come to this point, we could delete the internal faces, the top and the bottom, and then create some edge loops. And then we just extrude these faces out, and we basically get to the same point. I tried Max. Um, I started with Maya from, I mean, since Maya was Maya 2008, I believe, and I kind of just stuck to it. I briefly tried Max in order to use V-Ray. Um, yeah, I tried Max in order to use V-Ray, but I don't know. I was never like a real big fan of Max, even though I know that is the main software that they use for architecture. Let me see if I could set something up. I'm not seeing it. 1 second. Let me see if I could fix this thing. Let's see if that would work. Yeah. Yeah, Max is give you I mean, I guess the both of them would give you a lot of detail because I see some people use SketchUp and create some really decent models. So we just go back in and start creating the edge loops to define the doors and the windows. Yeah, yeah. I honestly think like Maya shortcuts are better. Um, because some of the things that you're doing in Maya, like for example, like snapping to a vertex and stuff. I have no idea why I haven't seen anyone been able to do that in 3D Studio Max. But you know, in Maya it's like a normal thing. And you see everybody just kind of eyeballing where their lines would go or where how accurate they would be. Whereas, you know, in Maya you just hold V and snap to a specific point. That kind of makes things kind of flow a bit faster, I feel. Let's run through this. I'm trying to see what my record would be. The last time it took me 3 hours basically to create a model and have it rendered in Twinmotion. So trying to see if I could beat my time. But that was a flat single story house. So all right. So as we got done with that, I'm trying to figure out why this thing not. Let me see if I could this. I actually now learning to use Fusion 360, but that is for uh 3D printing. I mean Fusion decent, especially when it comes to accuracy for making certain things to print. I tried doing a 3D model in Maya and sending it to the printer to print, and it worked out. It's just that some of the tolerance for getting things to snap together, it need to play around with since it's not as accurate as Fusion. me see if okay, so it works. It's just pretty small. All right, so go through the same process and get all the windows deleted. And we just create the bathroom loop. Delete those guys. Right. So if we hide, again, we have just the basic external walls, and we extrude minus 12.7, and then we flip. Yeah, once you have, I mean, it has so much of good software, it just depends on your application, where you need it for. So, like having the ability to learn a lot of different software, I feel, especially for what we do, um, is definitely a good thing. Right. So this is the basic uh, walls for both floors. What I would do from here is create the roof. I will move this section and place it on top there. I will cheat and duplicate the foundation, delete these loops, and then create the floor itself. Just looking for the fastest way to create the model but still have it as accurate as possible. All right, so that would be the floor. Yeah, yeah, I think your portfolio is most important, and then how you could integrate into the pipeline. Um, but 3D especially, I know a lot of people would say, well, you need to go to school and probably get a degree in ArcViz or modeling or something of the sort. But if you have a strong portfolio, I think like that not even necessary. It just depends on the work that you put out. Right, so this is the floor. We could delete it and duplicate it and come down a bit. Let me freeze the transform, come down about there. And that would be the thickness for the slab as well as the ceiling for the ground floor. Flip the normals, and then we just extrude these faces up. So a lot of times the ceiling would be white, but then this section also may be white, or even the color of the walls. We could separate that once we separating all the materials and stuff. So yeah, what we could do is we could also use this same thing, and then we come up to create the ceiling up here as well. I would do is I will extrude back to this point so I could merge the vertices right here, and then I'll delete this loop, and then I will flip the normals down. All right, man, no worries. Take it easy here. Thanks for the subscribe. All right, we'll talk again next stream probably. Yeah. So yeah, this is where we at so far with the basic shell of the house. Now again, I said it in the last video, I try to delete faces that I don't need. So I would delete those. And what we would do now is we could turn on the reference and we will put the roof back into place. So we could create the roof. Right. So my approach to the roof is similar to how I approach doing the external walls, where I use the polygon tool. So I would just come in and create polygons like this, press G, and then we could create an next section. And depending on the direction you go with creating the actual polygon, will determine which direction the normals would face. So as you saw, when counterclockwise, if we look at it, this would be gray because the normals are at the bottom. If we come clockwise, it should be black, right? Because now the normals are facing upwards, which is fine. We could just go in and flip those after. So we just continue snapping to the vertex, press G, and we go again, hold V, and then snap. This is so much quicker to do it this way. Right, so those are all the sections for the roof. This one we could just go in and we could flip it, and you can see there we have it. So this is the roof. This is a 20-degree angle based on the drawing. The 3D roof was done in AutoCAD architecture, where you could set the angle, the pitch of the roof, and everything, the distance of the eave. So now in order to get it to the top, we turn on the reference and we can press insert and we snap to this point. So this is the pivot point for each section of the roof. So if we hide, you can see the pivot point doesn't move. So there's the pivot point for each section. So we now select from there and we are moving it to this point. Since if we look at it, this is the bottom of the upper floor, right? So we do that, and there you have it. There is the roof. It simple and straightforward like that. All right. Now what we would do is, I have an asset library with some things that I created, and I have an eave. So I could just import the eave. You can see this is the eave with the guttering, the dung pipe from the guttering, and then we have the vent pipe that goes to the bathroom. I definitely could get a lot more detailed with this, but this was just really quickly done. All right, so delete that. Yeah, this was really quickly done. I may go and update some of these models to get a lot more detail in it, but for now this works especially for our application. So I will duplicate that before I start editing one. Update it there. Now we could select everything and press F8. Press F8, and then we get all the components for each piece, and then we could go to vertex. Select the vertex on this section. With W selected to move, we go insert, and then we snap to this point. So when we move in from this point actually, and then we snap it to there. And you can see how simple that is. We could move these. It doesn't, the bathroom is on this side, so we could put this vent pipe over here. And this vent pipe would be for this bathroom to the bottom. So now we could just select it again and move it there. Say 180. Press F8. Select all the vertices. Now, even though I could snap to here, like set the vertex pivot point to this point and then snap it to this corner, we could also come to the top here and snap it on the eve itself and then go to the end point. So it does the same thing. You just need to figure out what kind of works best for you in your application. All right, so we have that. We just roughly moving things into place. We'd fix them after. Right, we do this one as well. Again, F8, select all the vertices, insert, snap it to that point, and then move it right there. Right. So now we need to do the front. We will rotate this 90. I'll delete our copy and pull it off to the side. We'll remove the vent pipe and the down pipe. Press F8 again. Right. So let us do the inside and I'll show you how to use the lattice to try to get some movement without moving the actual mesh. So the first thing we do is I'll press F8 and I will scale all of those together to get them flat. And then we'd move these vertices to this point just like all the others. Now you would see where the issue comes in when I move to this point and then we rotate this. We press F8 and then flatten these and then move them to we say this point. Right. So the issue, it have two ways to do this. One is long. I'll show you on each side. So let me create this one right here and I will flip it. See, retransform. Right. Retransform first, then we flip it. Right. So it had two ways to do this. They have a long way, but you still get to the same point, and it have an easy, faster way. So the first thing we could do is select these points and try to snap them in line with the opposing point here. Right. It get a bit tricky once we get to the top. So if we go to the top right here, we could try to snap these and not get confused. So if we go to vertex, we'd say this goes here, this one comes there, this should come there. There. Right, so I mean this is one way to do it, and then we would do the opposite on this section here, where we select the vertex and kind of try not to get confused as to where they're lining up. Right, so that works if we go back. Yeah, you can see it lined up to this point, and then we just need to snap these over. So this works, but it is a bit tedious. And I mean, when you get into a mesh that like really complex, it's be difficult. So the easiest thing to do is we could go in, select both meshes, press F8, select the vertices, and then we create a lattice, right? If you go to deform, you should get a lattice right here. So we create the lattice, and then the simplest thing to do, you right click, and you go to the lattice point, select those to the back, snap them right there. And then you select the entire mesh and you delete the history. And then if we do the same thing to this section now, we select these vertices, right click. Now, I did not move this lattice to the outer point, which I should do. This should come out here. All right, but this needs to line up with the end. So if we do that, delete the history, and then we do the same thing to this side. F8, select the vertices, create the lattice, go to lattice point, then we move this out there, and we select these and we move it in. Right there. And now we select the entire mesh again, and we delete the history. We come to the same exact point as this, but you can see how quick that was. All right. So you just need to kind of figure out what works for you in the best way possible. So if we check back the drawing, we're looking at the roof to the front here. So it have a couple ways we could do this. We could select this entire thing and we could line it up right there. And we could do the same to this section. Right there. We just move this off to the side a bit more. Right, now what we could do is we could create an edge loop right here, and we create another edge loop right here. Now this edge loop would be at an angle because we have this line here skewed. So we need to select the entire thing, scale it to straighten it up, and then snap it to the wall. And then same thing with this edge loop, straighten it up, snap it to the wall. And this is just to extrude up to create the inner face, right? Right, so we don't need any of the downpipes or anything. We could select right. So what I want to do now, when I select the entire, I go insert and I snap the pivot point here, so I could move it to this point. Now, what I want to do is I want to freeze the transform on this. So when I make the rotation, and I press W for move, you can see we maintaining the rotation or the movement here, right? Now, if you want to go back to whirl, you can press W and then click, and you can see you go to whirl. So you can move, in the normal whirl orientation, or you could go back to object by holding W and then clicking, and then the menu would come up. So we want to, on the whirl orientation, I would set the angle to 20 since the roof is a 20-degree angle. And we are right there. All right. We could take off the gutter in itself. And then in these points, we just move them up a bit. Those that inside, you're not really going to see it, so it doesn't really matter as much. So the next thing I want to do now, I could create this off of this mesh, or I could create it separate. I'd create it off of the mesh and then duplicate it. So what I would do is select the edge. I will extrude all the way to this point, right? And then from here, we'll take these vertices, bring them down right there. Now I create some loops just in here because I need a section to come down to this point. So I create an edge loop right there. And then I create another edge loop right here. So as I select these, I could extrude this down. And then I could select this section and extrude this down as well. So you could see what we have there. Right? And then what we could do is we could either select, let me move this up a bit just to get the vertex separate. Right, what we could do is we could select this entire thing and put a lattice on it. So as we move, select those. Right, so if we select those and we put a lattice on it and we switch the lattice T divisions to 2, what we could do now is just select this point and get this all of the vertices to go up at one neat, nice little angle. All right, so we do that, and then we could delete the history to get rid of the lattice. And now we snap this back to there. Right. We could pull this out a bit just to kind of neaten it up. Oh, what we could do is we press W, set that there. We go to world. Now, if we duplicate it and then we scale it -1, you can see we scale up there, and now we could simply rotate it like this, and then we rotate down -40. Right, so we could do it that way. For these faces, we could select these faces, and then we will make a duplicate of the face. History, freeze transform, center pivot, and then we could set the pivot point to there, and then we scale history, freeze transform. Right. Why is Maya sticking? Right. We scale -1, so we come across to that point. We could get pretty and fix this, but it really doesn't matter since it's the same color and it intersecting. You wouldn't see any flickering in the geometry. Alright, so the only thing we need to do is we need to raise the wall here. So we could just select these 2 points, move them up, and then we create one line to the center that would line up with the center of the wall, and then we could move that up. And I mean, it is a bit of cheating, but we're looking for the fastest way to get things done, because at the end of the day, the client not really going to see the topology once the lighting hits it and it looks good, and that is all that really matters. So all right, so the next thing I want to do is just create a cap for this. So again, we'll select the polygon tool and we will just create a quick cap and flip it inside out. We duplicate it and then we place it right there. Right, we want to assign the material because there is a material for the guttering. So we assign the guttering material. Yeah, nice, quick, and easy. Now, we can do the same here where we apply the roof material, because the roof material would be the same material here as the flashing. So we could apply the roof material, right? And, yeah, so let me take a look at, they didn't specify on the material for the house, so we keep it simple and do like a off-white, and then for the moldings, either off-white or like a gray, probably a really light gray, and then the banding we could do a darker gray. That could look decent. So we could come in and just assign some materials really quickly. So we could call this main wall, then it's not quite white, but not very gray either. All right, this would be the ceiling. This would also be the ceiling. And then this will be, you call this floor tile. We just give it a random color just to separate it. The same thing for the inside. We'll apply the same floor tile right here. Now that is the internal floor tile. We could have a separate tile for the external colors, so we could select these. So the question comes now, are you going to tile the entire thing, or are we going to maintain the sides of it being the color of the wall and then the top would be tile? I mean, we could do that. So we could apply the main wall and then we press F8 and go to faces. Select that face, this one, and this one, and then we create a new material, because the tile for the inside may not, or the floor finish for the inside may not necessarily be the same floor finish for the outside. So we could call this outside tile floor, and then we just give this another random color just to, you know, separate it. So that is where we are thus far. All right, so the next thing we could do is we could look at bringing in the windows to try to have it looking a bit more complete. So we go back to my library and I would bring in a window. Oh, snap the window into place. Now, the windows was made in 2-foot sections, which is the typical size of a section, you know, of a window. So we just need multiple sections in order to create, you know, whichever style of window that we want. Right, so this is 2 sections, 2 sections, 3 sections. When we get to this, we will just delete the base and just make the top 1 foot higher in order to get 2 by 2 square. And then we'll work out this separately. So we could change this material for the molding and make it a bit darker as we spoke about. And then what we could do now is if we duplicate this, we could delete the molding there, and now we snap this here. So basically this is the window with the molding. Now one thing that I want to look at, it may not be necessary, but as you can see, the molding have 2 sections, so this would be more likely than not, this thicker section here would be raised beyond this point. All right, so how we could do that is we could create an edge loop right here. We're eyeballing it right now. Let me say about there. Right, and then we select all these faces, and then we do an extrude, and then we bring it out slightly. We could delete this edge right here. So now we get the window with two sections, right? So what we could do now is we could select both sections of the windows. Now if we press W and we try to snap it to another window, we duplicate it and try to snap it here, you will see that it looks like one of the windows disappeared, but the window actually inside here, right? So what we need to do is we need to select the windows, and if we press insert, you could see one of the pivot point here, which is the pivot point for this window. We could go V and then snap both pivot points to there. So now if we move the window, it would move correctly. We duplicate, we put this one here. Right, so you notice when I rotate it like this, one rotating, well, both of them won't rotate like that, but if I try to just put in a number 90, just now it didn't do it. Again, some of the strangeness with Maya, I don't know. Anyway, so I duplicate it again, I move it there, and move it there, and then we go 180. And then we put the last one down there, and we have another at this point. Right, so now we could do the bigger windows. So we duplicate again, place it right here. We can move the pipe. We need to stretch molding to the end right there. And now we could select one of the windows. We could select this window actually. We duplicate it and then we move it to there. Insert, we could put the pivot point back here, since this is where we need to move it from. And now we could select all 3 of these windows and then duplicate that and move it to there. Okay, that. Move it to there, and then we could select, because we left out this one, we could duplicate that and bring it right here. So those are the larger windows. Now we could select this and we would make the window for the bathroom. So we could just delete the metalwork on the inside for the bottom section. Pull the glass up a bit, and now we could select these vertices right here and snap from this point to right there. Right. Same thing with the molding. We just move the moldings in place. Right there. And you can see we starting to kind of shape up a bit. $180. And then finally the last one here would be, right, pull this out slightly, put it there. Right, keep just moving the down pipes and them a bit to where they, probably would be. Would need, right. So this window to the front here now, if we take a look at this window, again it's in 2 sections, but then it divided into 4. So how we could approach this is we simply start by taking one of these windows. We could move it there. Stream I would be right back. All right. Yeah, so what we will do for this window now is we need to create 2 sections and then divide it into 4. So the moldings, we will pull the moldings down a bit in order to get the proper length. And we could delete this part of the window since we already have this, the upper section clip into the top of the window. So we will select these, insert, snap the vertex, and we could pull it all the way down to here. Same thing with the glass. Right. So what we want to do now is divide it in 4. Now, I said this before, Maya doesn't have a really good way at just dividing geometry evenly, unless like you create a object and subdivide it in the settings for the object itself. So that is exactly what we'll do. We'll create a box. We create a box right here. And the first thing we do, we will subdivide the height of the box in 4. And then if we look at the dimensions for the window is 16 feet in total. So we could make the height of the window 16 feet. I'll be back again. Okay. All right, so if we divide it by 16 feet, now we could move the snap point down. And if we snap it right there, each one of these sections were divided evenly into, 4 pieces. So now we just need to decide on what we would use to create those sections. So what I would use in this instance is I would duplicate this part of the frame and I will delete that there. Right. I will move these vertex just to square it off, and the bottom of it would be, hollow. So what I would do is I would select the edge and extrude the edge across there, and then we'll close it off. Right, so this now becomes pretty simple. We delete the history, freeze transform, center pivot, and now we could just go like that, snap it to each one of these lines. So if we delete the box now, you could see it divided into 4 even sections. So now we could select these 4 sections and the glass, and we could duplicate it. Now if we duplicate and we try to snap it, this would kind of be off because right now the pivot is at the center. So if we snap it, you could see we have this weird thing going on here. What we have to do before we snap it is press insert, and then we have to move all these pivot points to here. So again, press V, and then we middle mouse and then just bring them right there. So now if we snap, everything is placed properly. So yeah, that is how simple we create that section for the window. All right, so the next step now is doors. So we could go back to my library. I just have a simple door. Now I could probably leave the door out and then use the door that they have in Twinmotion, since they have like a lot of highly detailed doors. So I think we'll do that. We'll try to use Twinmotion doors. If it doesn't work out, we could just jump back into Maya, create the door in place, and then export that as a separate file. Right. So with that being done, what we want to do now is I will open another project in order to get some of the assets that I used. You'll open this project. This was the last project completed. What I want is, we'll take this section for the apron and the driveway, and then we could probably use this wall, this model for the wall. All right, everything else we would get it from the library for the road and everything. So I could copy this, and then we'll go back to our current file. Right. So we ungroup, right? Now, to be honest, I have no idea how the lot for this project is, because as you can see, we didn't get the house on the lot itself. So I really don't know. Now, I am assuming that either the garage or the driveway would be to the front or to the side. Again, no idea. So because of this doorway here, I would create the driveway to the side, and then create like a walkway to the front, and then make the lot, big enough to suit that. So first off, let us start with a plane that is 50 by 100, and we could see where that fits All right, so typically if we freeze this here and we push it 8 feet again, this is the setbacks that we normally need to leave. So this may give enough space for a driveway to the side here. Now I will move this back there. We'll freeze that transform and then push it forward by 15, which is typically what the setback for the town and country approval in Trinidad would be. So, I mean, this still looks pretty close to the road, so we just push it back a bit like that. And we could work with that. Right. So what I want to do now is I want to reduce the amount of geometry that we have here. We need 4 lines. And then we need 1, 2, 3. And the reason for this is what I want to do is I want to select the lines and line them up with the actual building itself. And this would allow me to delete the unwanted geometry inside. All right, so if we get that done, we go to 4, we could select these. All right, so we could select those, this, and delete it. And now we could just go in and clean up, delete this edge, as well as these 2 edges, since they're not connecting to anything. Right. Oh. What we want to do now is kind of place in where the driveway and like the apron and stuff would go. So let us first snap this into place right here, and we'll place it like that. Now this is a bit wider right now. The dimension for this would be around 11.5 feet. Don't need to be like super exact, but what I want to do is I would come to the front right here and we will pull the yard out slightly. So let's say about that. Right, so we could do probably green on either side. So this is the entrance coming in from the road. So this is from the curb itself. So we could select those and then we will just snap it like that. And then we'll bring this section here. What I could do is I'll figure out how I want to do the back after. So I'll rotate this 90 degrees or minus 90 degrees. I will snap this to this point here. And then, so this way we create a walkway that goes from the doorway itself onto the driveway. Right now, we could pull this out. Let's say if we pull it out to here, to right there. Right, this way we could create some space to the front here for either some plants or some landscaping. So we pull that out there and then we would flip this on the z-axis. Right, so now it creates this area right here that we could probably put some stonework and then some landscaping and so on. And what we want to do now is we just need to figure out how we want to transition from the doorway to the front. Now, even though they have this, I would make the suggestion, and then they could not put it if they want. I would extend this out to me the front. We still have the indentation, but then we could create some plants on the inside, or even if we leave it, like that, we could have a narrow walkway. I mean, we could do that. Have a narrow walkway here. Let us rotate this as well. Use a transform. All right. What we want to do is we could center this pivot, and we want to find the exact midpoint here. So create a box, do the same lattice trick where we create a lattice. And if we move the points of the lattice, this would go to the exact center point. So this is the exact center point right there. All right. Now we could move these vertices out. And then we could do the same with this and create like a corner block. Right. Right. So we have the walkway coming in and then transitioning into the driveway and then going on to the back of the yard. And then we could do something to the back of the yard. We create this section where we would put let's say like pebbles, and then put plants on it, and then the rest would be grass. So if that is the case, we need to divide this now right here. Right, we need to subdivide this a bit. So we just select the edge loops and we snap them into place to where they need to go, and then you would see what this would do once we start adding the material for the yard itself. All right, so with that being done there, we need to separate this as well. Now I divided it and going to delete the faces, because once we put down the grass, we don't want the grass to grow through the driveway. All right, so now we could select the faces. We select, if we go to wireframe mode, we select these faces here. So those are the faces that would be going towards the entrance, and then we delete some of these faces right here that go into the back of the house. Right, so if we start to assign some materials now, you would see where the difference would be. So I start with the entire yard as being grass, and we will put, you know, like a darkish gray, darkish green, and then we would select these faces here where we said we would put you know, like pebbles to plant, you know, different type of flowers and plants. So we'd create a separate material for that. We'll call it pebbles. Then we make that white. Right. So now you can see where the grass section would be, where the pebble section would be. Now we could do the same thing on coming down on the side here, create pebbles and, you know, put a different type of plant, which may not be a bad idea. And we could bring the driveway all the way down to here. And then once we get to this point, we come across to the backyard like this. And we have a paved area, and then we have grass to the back of the yard. So could do that. We'll get rid of this. This would be where we consider in the paved area stopping. And now we just go across to the end. Right here. Right? So now we could delete these faces in here. And that would more or less be it for the yard area. Now the question would be, if we want to do the pebble stones coming on this side as well, are we going to run the pebbles all the way to the back? Are we going to stop it right here? Since this is completely up to us, I think we could stop it right here, and we could have like a small transition, like a block, just to divide the space. So it wouldn't be like, you know, just the pebbles randomly stopping. We could create, where are you? Yeah. Did I not? There's 3 pebbles. Right. I could create just a little block. So I could use this itself and just create a small block like this. Right, so we have pebbles and plants here, pebbles and plants here, and then grass throughout the rest of the yard. And then probably we would, you know, put in some landscaping or something to the back. Right? So with that being done, the next thing we want to do is create the perimeter wall. Again, simple. We create a box and we adjust the inputs on the box so we could set the height. So what I would do is we want the wall to be 7 feet high. Now if I put 7 feet high, then I would need to go and adjust the pivot point and snap it back up to the correct height of the floor. Whereas if I put 14 feet high, right, what I could do is just snap it to that point right there. And once I snap it to this point right here, what I could just do is move this up and delete the bottom. So it's kind of a quick way to cheat and do it. Then we kind of just outline the perimeter and delete those walls. And now we could extrude and we set the thickness to 12.7, which is a 5-inch wall. I mean, we could make it a bit thicker as a perimeter wall, but you wouldn't really see that. Right, so there you have it. That is the perimeter wall itself. Now, if we maintain in this style, you can see this has a cap. So to do the cap, we just simply select the top of the wall, and we could do it. We could either, when we extrude, we could extrude up first and then make it wide, or we could go wide and then go up. It really doesn't matter. So we could go like this to the height that we want, and then we could select this entire loop and extrude and make it thicker, right? So we could call that good, or we could make adjustments after the fact. So if I want it to be slightly taller, I can make it a bit taller, and I think the width is good, right? So now we add a material for the boundary wall, and we can make it like that, and we select to make the cap, add a material for the cap. Then we can either make this a darker or a lighter color. So let's say we just go with this color right here, just to make life easy. Right, so we could get rid of this wall. We want this column. So just put the column roughly in place where I want it. Now I would leave the column itself a separate color from the wall, but I would make the molding the same color as the wall cap. All right, and then we would slide this in line right there, and I could pull in the wall a bit, just so it would hide within the column. And again, we don't even need to hide it. We could snap it right there and delete this face. Right, so this is the column and the cap. What we could do now, generally, we could duplicate it. Let me move it to this face first, freeze that transform, and then I want to move this minus 10 feet. Up. Take a measurement of what this was. This is 18 inches. All right, so if we duplicate it again, we move in, instead of 10 feet, we move in negative 11.5. That'll be negative 21. Oh, I didn't freeze the transform. All right, so if we freeze the transform first and then we move it, negative 11.5. So, right, a Maya shortcut is, if we duplicate it, Control D, and you move the distance that you want. If you press Shift D again, it should just keep duplicating the same distance. Right. We will cheat and give the client a little more land right there. And now we could take all these columns and then we could just duplicate them and shift them across right here. Right. So we need the columns to the back. We transform, Control D, and then we move it 11.5. Right. We see where this end up. Two things. We could either move it to that point, or we could try to make it exact, or however we want to do it. In this instance, what I would do, since the land already a lot wider than what it should normally do or should normally be, we'll just slightly move these back a bit, just eyeballing it for it to kind of look as even as possible. So that would be it there. What I want to do now is the downpipes. I want the downpipes to go all the way into the ground. Right, these downpipes need to go all the way into the ground. And now the vent pipes. And now the downpipes itself, we will put the downpipes just above the apron. So they would go just above the apron. Right? So yeah, I think we okay there for now. We just need to do the road. Just need to do the road and see where we at. Not doing bad. An hour and a half to get all of this done so far. It's not bad. Right. So the next thing is to import the road itself from the library. So we could go to the, see. Right. So we want that to be the road there. We could do is make this a bit smaller. Right. Right. So that is one road section. How I modeled the road and them, the roads were modular, so they could snap into each other kind of seamlessly, but in sections. So if I select this, what I want to do is I want to rotate it first. Because if I just move it like that, you would have this driveway section here, which I don't want. So I want to snap it down here, and then we would rotate it 180, and then we make sure everything lines back up. slightly off. All right, that should be it. All right, so now we just, duplicate the road. All right, then we come back to this section and we can flip it and then duplicate. Now, I just duplicate the road like that because the camera would not be seeing it. We'd have a shot from across the street and you would just see a couple sections. And then like if I rotate at another angle, I still want a couple, sections of the street going up where you could see it. So that is the reason for duplicating it like that. But for the most part, you wouldn't be seeing like this. All right. So this is the street done. The next thing I want to do is create the grass for the external outside of the yard itself. Now, the reason to do it separate is, let me extend this a bit. The reason for doing it separate is the type of grass that we're using for the yard of the house itself is a more detailed grass, and the way it is applied would be different as well. All right, so for the yard we want something like nice and clean like lawn. Outside it could be a bit rougher with pebbles and a lot of dead grass and longer grass and stuff. So what we still want to do is we could duplicate this just to pull off a section. Could get rid of all of this, that. We need to change the material though. We need to change it and call it change the color as well. Probably put something a bit darker, and then we could snap to this point. Could come up here. Now I'll duplicate that copy and put it over so I could deal with that after. And we could select this and come all the way to the end, and then we could extrude this section back, just so when we plant the trees in the backyard or around the building, it has the ground to go on. So you see this problem here, right? It's because the geometry intersecting and it's two different materials, and we see this a lot on like visuals online because the geometry in the same plane. So this is why we need to actually separate it. So we select the lines and then we delete the face. So now we have a separate material for grass on the inside from the outside. Right. Here we could just place this where it needs to go. Again, same principle. We just want some yard, some ground area to plant trees in the background just to kind of pick up the space in the background, as well as to get the reflections of the windows and so on. And we kind of almost done. Right, we almost done. So the other thing to do is we need to bring this in, and what this is, I'll put it right there. Right, so what this is would be just the ridges for the roof. I normally just have it separate because the way I create the roof by creating the polygons, that is a separate mesh. And if I create these separate, I could just rotate it in place and scale them down. Now, to be honest, the proper thing would be to would be to probably create like a actual roof panel that I could rotate, but then in order to get these nice clean cuts, it would be a bit too much work on it, not necessary. So this would rotate. We're looking at the angle of the roof. If we rotate it down to there, we see that is minus 70 degrees. So that minus 70 degrees would apply for all sections of the roof. So we could take this runtime and we could place it right here. Put it like that. And then we could duplicate it again. Place it right there. I wouldn't get carried away before I get myself confused. So first off, we delete this section. And then if we moving them into place, we can't move along the wall because that would throw it off. We need to click and then go to object. So now we can move at the angle of the roof itself. So just quickly pull these down into place. And it doesn't need to be exact, and it doesn't need to be like super pretty, because all of that would fix after. Right, same thing here. We delete these, and then we select these faces or these vertex, and we start pulling them to where they need to go. I don't worry too much about the ones on the inside because there would be some, you see there are some sections here, but you will not see that underneath the ceiling of the inside, which is the most important, because if you can't see through the window, you would see the ceiling itself. So no problem there. Right, so we could just move some of these where they need to go. We'll fix it after. We could put that there. Then we could get moving these vertices, move this entire section one time, and then we start moving these as well. All right. So from far, it would look like an actual galvanized roof. Right, what I want to do is I want to copy this, put it here, and what I would do is rotate it like that, and just kind of fix some of these in place. Get rid of this one. All right, we're almost done. These three right there. You could always go from the top view to look at this once you kind of have a understanding of where all the lines actually are. Hey, how you going, man? We kind of making some progress with the house. So I would be that there. Right. So for this last section, we could just move this right here and get rid of all the rest of the roof that we don't actually need. You would not believe a guy messaged me on Facebook last week, uh, asking if I would be able to work with him to make some game assets because he do mods for games. I mean, it's something I could consider, but I don't know. The problem is time. Is to find the time. But if the opportunity comes up and is, I mean, why not take it? Why not take it if the opportunity does arise? Right, so for the most part, we could do one thing again. I would cheat here as well and move it world space, snap it to this point, and then delete everything there. Object. For this project, because like most of these projects that I do is to go along with a design package for a client. So what they normally do is just require the renders for the exterior. But if you go to this website, I do interior as well. Um, and this is this is one of my websites. So the video that plays to the top of the site is internal animation that I did for a project. I also do interior modeling as well. But when you all do modeling for your games, is it everything needs to be broken down into quads or tries? I mean, I guess that isn't really an issue because then you could just retopologize and get it broken up. Um, that isn't a big deal, really. I will cheat a bit for this. I will pull back an older drawing and just pick the ridge caps from this drawing. Yeah, there's the first, well, I shouldn't say the first time, there's the second stream doing with regards to ArcViz stuff. I'm not really sure how popular that is on YouTube. I say, you know what? since I have the work to get done, let me try to stream it and see uh, if anybody would, join in and look at the stream. So, but yeah, thanks for thanks for popping in. Right, so we on group. This is just cheating here. No. I saw some of the Japanese style. I mean, it would be interesting to try to do a design or to try to do a model to render that. Um, I mean, I probably should, do a design and then kind of give it that Japanese style and probably record it and see how that works out. Yeah, that sounds like a new challenge. That does sound like a new challenge, which is not a bad thing. All right, so almost done with the roof. I think once we get past this, I would only need to go in and probably just add in uh, some of the assets like lights and stuff from the library. And, I mean, that should be it for Maya. This is not exact and it is not pretty for sure. You will not see this. Just really dirty modeling right now. All right. I think we are good there. I wouldn't, as I said, I wouldn't do the doors once I get to um, Twinmotion. We'll try to use our Twinmotion door and see how that looks. But for the most part, I believe we are done. Okay, they want moldings around the doors, so that is the only thing we put in. Two side doors, but not the front. So we could do is we could select the window just to get the molding, delete that. Now we could, from this point, rotate it 90. You have the molding for the door. All right. I think for the most part that should be it there for Maya. Add a few things. So let's have some lights there. We could put some lights along the driveway. Start at the corner here. All right. Start at the corner there, and we'll freeze our transform. Let's move it about, let me see what is the total length. We have 15 feet. So if we move it 5.1, then we duplicate, and we could duplicate them across to this side. And we could come up minus 5.1. It's fine. And we could do the same thing here as well. Actually, no, I wouldn't put the lights on this side. I would leave that for the plants and probably try to do something different. We did 22. Minus 5.6. It's fine. That's 5. All right. I think we okay with that. And we just have plants running on the inside. Plants running here and grass all around, and that should be it. I think we okay there. So I would save, select everything and group it. And this is Rajpal. Right. So I think we okay there. What we need to do is we just raise this off of the grid. Snap the pivot point for the entire thing back to the grid. All right. So the only thing that we did not do, we missed something. All right. Here's what we missed. We missed this band molding. This banding going across the entire house, and then it goes across the front. All right, we could cheat and make that. Same way we made the door, we could cheat. Could cheat and make the door. Delete that. We delete these. Right, what I want to do is this needs to be 6 inches. So just scale it up to about 6 inches, and what we do now is this will be the banding. We will snap right there. We'll work out this whole guttering system after. Even though generally what they would do is cut the molding by the guttering, since the molding going on after the guttering already installed. So we'll duplicate it, put it right there, rotate it. We could do the same trick with using the lattice in order to get a 45-degree angle, but since this is like a very simple shape, we don't need to go through that. We could just, you know, literally just snap this into place. No need to get like really fancy right now. Right, so I think the molding runs across the window. So it would come right here, up there. We would put in a couple edge loops. Then delete this internal face, and then we need to we could cheat. We already have this section here created. We just move this to that point right there. Right. Now we rotate, do the same thing. We could copy this from here, move it across, freeze that transform, and now we just flip it. And snap it into place. What happened here? All right. So we just need to do the molding on this side. Again, simply flip it. Now we get these in place where they need to go. And then we have the molding to the back. Flip that. All right. What are we missing now? So we have this main band that goes around the entire, okay. That goes around the entire thing. And now we have to do one band to the bottom that stops 4 feet. So we could copy this, we copy this, and we could copy this. We duplicate it, pull it down to there. Is it at the bottom of the window? The bottom of the window. So we could pull it down to here. We could delete this section. For the window itself, we could take these faces, flatten them off, snap them to that point, then delete it. And we now move this to there. And that is that. So now we need 4 feet. Again, just really quick. We measure 8 foot, so then this section will be 4 feet. And we could delete the box. And we just want to create the cap. This. Right. And if we want to close it off, we can close it off like that. Merge the vertex. Rough, 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 rough. Okay. Right. The only thing that I want to do is I have it in another model that I created, if I could remember which one. Was it this? No, it's not this. Right. So I just want to get this fence. No need to model it again if we already did the model one time. All right. So for the most part, I guessing we done. We finished there in Maya. Just need to add this to the main mesh, and yeah. So this is it. We could jump across into Twinmotion and set it up and get it, you know, ready to be rendered. All right. I think I see in something here that I want to adjust, which is the columns. I want to pull the columns out a bit this way. Yeah. Right. So yeah, that would be it there for the most part with Maya. So long have we been at it? Not too long. All right. So we just save this and get it exported. Start working on it in Twinmotion. All right, so that is it for the most part for now. I think what I would do is I'll take a little break. We get Twinmotion fired up, and I would get back, and then we could start uh, rendering it out and getting everything set up, you know, so I could get this project done today. So just let Twinmotion load up, and I would yeah, I would just take a small break and get back to you in like 5 minutes. So I'll be right back. All right, yeah, so we in Twinmotion here now, and what I did, I have a lighting setup that I created where I basically have a full set with all the lights and everything the way that I wanted, and the camera is already set up. So we have a couple different times a day. So it's simply to use that as a base set and then import the models for the house and start creating everything. So you can see this is a couple different lighting setups. So we have a sunny day, we have an overcast day. This is like a morning afternoon type of setup, more golden hour, and then I have a few HDRIs that I want to add in after, which I would do at a later point. But for right now, this is just the base point that we're starting at. So from here, what I would do is I would delete the starting ground, delete the SUV, collapse this, and we will go to start to import the actual mesh that we just saved. So if we head on over to Jicran, Rampol, Twinmotion. Right, so I collapse by material because I don't want to have every single part of the model, accessible. It's not really necessary. So I would collapse by material and we just import it. Right, so this is where we at model wise. I would just change the time of day just to get the light to the front. The first thing we try to do is see how the Twinmotion doors would work. So we will do a rotating door and we'll do a double door to the front here. Okay, so I guess we could work with this. All right, so we would leave the door we leave the door closed. Now we would use the same style of door. You see, and the handles we want to use. I mean, I never really played around with Twinmotion to see the different styles and finishes, but it's not bad. All right, we'll go with 2, which will be similar to what, or close to what, the moldings and thing are. So we'll do that door there, and then we will come here and we do a single right there, and we'll keep the door closed. Keep the door closed, and we could use the same handle. I mean, we could probably use the same handle for the front as well. So we do the same door there, keep it closed. We need to figure out what this line is, so we jump back across the Maya because that looks kind of strange. We delete that. That was from the old door when we duplicated to get the molding. Right, so we re-export that. And now we head back to Twinmotion and we could just re-import the model. All right, so the door doesn't look bad. I think we could probably leave the handles as well on this one. Right. Right, so we start applying materials. So first thing we do reflective glass. On the glass, I let us see if we could do a glass here as well. Could we change the glass there? Right. Now, for the main building itself, we want painted plaster, and we could do stucco. This is fine. Right. Yeah, so this stucco finish is fine. We could use the same type of stucco. Actually, let's try something a bit different. It's a bit rough. We could use that for the moldings and make it a bit darker. Not too dark. What we want to do is change this to cubic. Let's reapply it. All right. Now we could try to apply it to the door. Let's see if we could get the door. We're applying it to the molding on the door itself. Oh, they have this broken up into a lot of pieces. Right, so we do the same thing to the door and we already have that changed out. Right, so we have the moldings, we have the main stucco for the walls. What we could do is we could add a bit of grunge to it because the wall wouldn't be like completely clear. We don't want it like this bad. Just a slight bit of grunge. So it notice you know, a slight contrast in the colors itself. Right, so we do metal here and we want to add the metal for the windows. We do the same for the roof as well. Now, the thing about the roof is, even though we're making it a bit darker, we want to reduce the roughness because like galvanized doesn't shine the way I would probably think it does. Why am I missing this one here? So let me go and fix that really quick in Maya. So I could duplicate this and put it here, and then rotate it. Like that. And again, we could export back to Twinmotion. This is a nice thing, like if something needs to be updated, you could just, you know, update it really quick, head across here, update the model, and you have it fixed. Right. So that is that. You can see the slight difference in color of the wall itself, right? So we head back over to the ceiling section and we have a 60 by 60. I kind of like that. For the door, I want to add mega scans, wood, veneer, and we could do a walnut, and then we darken the walnut up a bit. We could do a walnut, then we just darken it up a bit. It's fine. Right, and for the floor material, let's say the inside we want to do a wood floor finish. We could work with that. But outside now, we want to do a tile. We could put that. So we need to save this as making sure not to override the original file. Right. So what we do now is get the concrete down. For the concrete, we could do slab. Well, not slab. Smooth. And we could find like a concrete floor that isn't this bad. Let me see. If we darken this up a bit. Don't know if I like that. It's too dirty. We could just go with this one. We could add a bit of grunge to it. Right. For the sidewalk, we could do something a bit rougher, but not at the same time not too rough. We could work with that. Right. Asphalt, fine. Right, so what I do with the asphalt is I would have the asphalt material, which is this basic material here. I could make the adjustments if I wanted to have a bit of grunge or anything. And then I would duplicate this. And I would take this and create the lines with it. So the lines would disappear. But then we increase the lift. So that would bring back the lines, but you could see you still have the same texture of the road and everything on it. Right? So what we could do now is we could even duplicate I'd do is I'd make it a bit darker first. Make it a bit darker. Right, and then duplicate this one, and for the drain we could add a bit more, grunge in it, just so the drain would be a bit dirtier than the road itself. All right, so we're coming along there. Let's do all the walls as one time. So we could do a smooth, we would put the plaster painted. This stucco. Now this could be the same color as the house. We could darken it up a bit. What I want to do is probably use the moldings. We duplicate that and let this molding be the columns, and then the cap. I mean, we could have it lighter, or we could even do it a bit darker than this itself. So we put on that, and then we even darken it up more. Maybe a little too dark. Yeah. All right, so we'll work with that, and we want to add veneer there. Just darken this up a bit. We could add some grunge to it because it is outside taking full weather. Right. Couple other things we want to do. Plastic material. For the pipes. And for the lights, we want to do metal, and it's a bit darker. And then we have a neon material for the actual lights itself. 3500 is generally a decent enough number. So that same lights would be in there as well as here. So let us take a look at how that would look. Right, so we will just kind of park somewhere around here, and what we would do is we should duplicate it first. Right. So let us stop somewhere around here. What we need to do is we need to set the depth of field so the focal point would be on the building itself. And we also need to get the sun. I mean, we still want shadows going across the building. We just need to figure out where we want to be. Think that way. Right. Now, even though this would work, I want to lighten things up a bit. So just the white balance about 6,000. Take the exposure up to 0.5. think we could start there. Um, we turn on the denoiser so we could just see how the lights look here. If we need to drop the intensity of the glow. I think it's kind of fine, you know. Once it clears up, it would look, you know, how it needs to look. Right. So let's do the yard itself now. We'll do ground. Want something dirt-ish, but we want nothing too rocky. Let's see. We could try some of the forest floor, and then um, this rocky one we try it on the outside. We'll see how this looks. That is a bit too much. No, no, too. I mean, we could start with that. I'm not really a big fan of it, but we could start with that. What we would do is we would place scatter, and then we get some detail grass. Put in about 4, 5. What we want to do is adjust the size, so some would be shorter than others. It will have a slight variation, nothing too crazy, because if you really think about it, if you cut the grass, you're not going to cut the grass in patches. All right, then we add some dryness to a couple sections, and now let us scatter the grass and see. Um, what- Let me try to make some of the grass a bit bigger. Save it. Yeah. Don't know why the vegetation's sticking. Right. Let us see if this makes any difference. No. All right, that is a lot better. Right. Now let's take a look at that. Yes. Adjust the depth of field just so we can take a look at how that looks. I mean, I okay with this. We still have some dry area in between some patches and stuff. This is kind of fine. So we set back there, and we would continue from oh, need to adjust the camera speed. Right. So we have this as the main scatter. Now we could apply another scatter in it, but to get just a little variation of the type of plants. So we take the clove. Right, so there's a lot we could still minus a bit. So I have just a little bit of clove scattered in the yard. And now we could probably try to apply another scatter if we want to try to add some plants, make this a bit smaller. See how that looks. That is too much. And it's too big. If you look for mega scans, plant and add it after. So, but anyway, yeah, this is where we are with the yard so far. We could come in here. We'll get to the external section after. We could come in here and we want, see if we could get any pebbles material. So like, not beach. We could use this pebbles, and this is just to cover it, because what we will do now is we will go to the mega scans assets and we look for pebbles again. And what we would do is take these, even though it is brown to start with, we could take those and we could adjust the material, lighten it up a bit, but we need to come in and add to the lift. So you could see we get like closer to a whiter pebble. So we get like a whitish pebble. Right? The nice thing about this is if we just duplicate it, we'd end up with some random pebbles on the ground. Now, if we duplicate, you notice we get the exact same thing. So then we just come here and rotate 180. We get a different variation. We could duplicate that again. And then we rotate this one 90. And then we rotate this, duplicate this again. And then we rotate this one 180. So we get a completely different variation of pebbles on the ground. Right? So we have the pebbles there. Now we could just duplicate these Just move them. Fastest way to duplicate in Twinmotion is just hold shift and just drag the object. Right. So not looking too bad. I'll select these, duplicate all, shift them across. Put that there. Things like this, you could leave it like that, just to give the effect that some of the pebbles came out on the ground, which is not bad. Right? Move this across. Now, what I want to do is select all of these and move them here as well. We duplicate these guys. Oops. And we rotate 180 just so we will not have the same exact duplication. And now we could select all of these and oops. Are we moving from the wrong point? Oh, some of them at a strange angle. Let me see if I could create a new container. And the entire container. Right. Right, so we have all the pebbles, all the actual pebbles on the ground itself. So now when we add the plants, I mean, it would look better. Right. So we could take all of these, place them in there. We could delete this container, take all these pebbles as well, add them to here. Right. So now we have not apples, not apples. Yeah, now we have all the pebbles in one spot, and the reason I want to do that is when it's time to add the plants, if I go in and I add a let's say if I go in and I add a palm, depending, sometime if you add it, if you trying to move over like the rocky ground, sometimes it does this kind of real funky placement. So I try to put them in a group. Yeah, I try to put them in a group and then move things in place. So, because sometimes you get this weird placement where things start to rotate by itself. So, all right, so that is that. We could drop in. We could drop in a little car. right there. Rotate it right there. And I guess we could stay and leave it at that color. All right. So the next thing now is to do the grass for the outside. We could use the same grass material. All right. We'll do that as the backdrop as well. All right, save that. We clean up the materials. What I want to do in order to do the grass for the back, I would paint it on because I don't want the grass to be everywhere and slow down the computer. So we would paint, and then we will go to vegetation, grass, and we do a combination of different types of grass. So we have long grass. I would throw in one of these. You could throw in some of that. So we'd add the grass, and then we would adjust it after. So let me just drop a patch so we could see how this looks. All right, so one thing, we want to reduce the density of these. We want to adjust the size of some of these as well. Could increase the dryness a bit and change it to a more dry looking color. Right, so I guess some variation with the color of the grass itself. I don't know why Twinmotion have a grass that color. I've never seen grass like that. And it's I mean, that is okay. We could still see if we want to add in anything else. We could try one of these and see how that would change things up a bit. Right, so I think I okay with this. So what I want to do is I want to select the outer grass and then select the painted, and then I would isolate. So that way when I paint, I don't get it all over everything. Then anything I need to do, I would just come in after and clean it up a bit. You don't need grass everywhere. Right. So we could take off the isolation, deselect that, come back from the camera view and see how we are looking. All right. Save the camera view, but if we look around, I mean, the grass itself doesn't look too bad. Right. Right, so now we want to do the same thing with the trees more or less. So we go back and we paint. We could add some trees. We got a couple different variation in height. So same process. Let us paint the area and see how that looks. So maybe it is a bit too dense. Right. So now I want to paint just not across the not across the entire thing, but or at least this is how I do it. Um, right, so you would get some trees like in closer to the foreground, and then you get some further back and all of that. So it would add to the look. Now I want to make this a bit smaller. Try to cover this patch right there. That might be a bit too much. Yeah, we could work with that. Right, now we want to see behind the camera. We want something right about here. Let me see how that look in the reflection. All right, so I was looking at this reflection here. All right. Um, right. I think we're shaping up there a bit now. The next thing I want to add is we go back to the plants and we paint, but now we paint in some bushes. So we could add a couple variation of these and change the size. Right. And we could add in a couple of these guys. But these are pretty big. So we paint that first. Drop the density. See how that looks. We could paint this in and then we could add in we could come in and we could add a couple ferns to it. This is just for the reflection, and if ever I decide to render like a 360 view or something, that you would be able to, you know, see that in the background. Right. In paint here, I would If we look at it now, I think if we do 360 and we turn around, it wouldn't look completely naked. Right. So let us come in and add a couple pieces of vegetation, megascans, plants, gardens, flooring, and we could add some plants to just to kind of enhance the yard itself a bit. This bird of paradise, nice, so I will add that right there. Actually, no, we could add it. Yeah, we could add it right here. Right there. Don't really add much flowering plants, which I could probably do a bit more of, like the flowerless plants. But right, let's see if we could drop a couple of these in. See, this is what I was talking about. Like, once you start to add it, you see again this strange. It's trying to orient itself to how the pebbles are. So if we hide the pebbles, then we could kind of place it where we want and then just turn back on the pebbles after. We try some of those. Then we'd bring in some of these and then place them where we want. We start with these. So what we could do is we could create like clusters. Um, so we can get all of these out. We could start to create like little clusters of that. Now we need to do the same thing with these as well. Create a new container. Right. So we could do something like this. Create like a cluster there. We could switch out some of the plants. Right. Let me see how that looking. We could turn back on the pebbles. Okay, so that doesn't look too bad. Could just get something a bit taller to put to the back, which we could do that with these guys. Right. We are coming to come. All right. The question would be now is what we would put. Find these little bushes is put the bushes in front. Now let's try to just add in some mean, this is definitely not like super fabulous landscape design, but it's just to get something a bit green that doesn't look too awful. All right. So I think I am okay there. The only thing I want to do, I want to make some adjustments to the exposure. We could probably brighten it up a bit, take it to 1. It has 6,000. I think I like any sun crossing across the front. Bit more. Right. From here, I think the only thing I want to do is just put a small tree just to block this area here, and after that, I think we could go to the final set up the output. I don't like that tree. Live with that. Right. What I started to do and I really like, I don't know why more people don't do this, but if we add some stones to the front, We take this guy and we scale him up a bit. Okay, that may have bounced a bit too far. We just add in some stones around the area and then we come in after and take out the big ones after. I think it's these three. Right. So I think this is close to it. I mean, we could keep going further and add in more detail. Could be doing that, but I think for now, and for what it is for, it may not be 100% necessary. I mean, we still want the final render to look good, but there is a point of diminishing return. A point where it will not really matter anymore. Right, so let us probably call it there. Five, so I can pull. I want to pull the camera back a bit so I could get some more of the foreground in here. The blurred foreground. And set back the focal point as the house. And then which was a good one. I want it to be in the foreground, but I don't want it to be that much in the foreground. We're getting closer. Probably about there. Right. This may not be the best plant. You can live with that. Right, so I think we're coming close to the end here. We're at what, 3.5 hours? So one, and we would duplicate this. So change the depth of field there, change the focal length as well. 35 millimeters is fine. And we duplicate this guy. And the tree. Let's see if we could get one shot from the back. So for the back, what we want to do is we just fill it in with some backyard related stuff. Put it here, you know. Good work with that. All right. So Right. Drawing close to end there. I think that is it. So we have 4 renders. And then this one we will duplicate and we will call it cover page and change up some of the settings. Turn off. And we will switch on the blueprint mode. We will save that. Right, and there you have it. Another full stream at how to create model in Maya and then render it in Twinmotion completely in under 4 hours. I think this one, the only thing I would do is rotate the sun. But we could leave it. Yeah, so yeah, that is kind of that is where we at. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe if you got this far. Let me know if I should do more of these. I mean, it may be useful for someone, but you know, that is what it is. So I'll see you guys in the next video. I would leave a link to the Twinmotion page, so when I post these, you'll be able to see what the final renders look like. Yeah, that is it. See you guys in the next video.